Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down the big ideas that matter. Today, we are diving into something we all do but almost never talk about the right way: the art of spending money. This comes from Morgan Housel, and if you know his first book, The Psychology of Money, you know it was all about how to grow wealth. Well, this is kind of the sequel. It's about the psychology of how we actually use it.
So let's just start with this question right here, because it really flips the script. What if making money is actually the easy part? I mean, think about it. We spend decades learning a skill, getting a job, earning a living, but we spend almost zero time learning how to spend that money in a way that truly makes our lives better.
Okay, so let's get into our first big idea. A huge reason spending feels so complicated is that we're taught to think about it all wrong. In school, finance is treated like a science, right? A world of spreadsheets, exact formulas, and right answers. But in the real world, it's much, much more of an art. And this quote just nails it. Housel basically says our financial decisions have very little to do with calculators and everything to do with this messy, human mix of psychology, envy, and the stories we tell ourselves. There is no single right answer because it's not a math problem. The real work is figuring out what's going on in our own heads. And that leads us right to our second point. Spending is deeply behavioral. See, our personal history invisibly guides our wallets, and this is where all those clean, tidy financial formulas they completely fall apart. This image really captures a core truth. So many of our financial habits are just a reaction to our past. If you felt invisible or looked down on when you had less money, maybe displaying some wealth later in life isn't about arrogance. It could actually feel like you're healing an old emotional wound. So here's the thing. We think we're being rational, but most of the time, we're actually just rationalizing. We use logic and spreadsheets to build a case for choices that were really driven by our emotions and our life stories. There's a great saying, people are not rational, they are rationalizing. Once you accept that, so much of our seemingly strange behavior with money starts to make perfect sense. And that brings us to this powerful idea. It's such a good reminder to just stop judging how other people spend their money. A choice that seems totally irrational to you, well, it probably makes perfect emotional sense to them based on the life they've lived. It's the ultimate proof that there's no single right way to do any of this. So, if our spending is so emotional, what's the core feeling we're often chasing? Well, as we're about to see, it's usually not about the stuff itself. This right here is the great misunderstanding. We use things, material possessions, as a proxy for something much deeper. You don't actually want the expensive car. You want the respect and admiration you think the car will bring you. But here's the thing. That connection is way, way weaker than we imagine. And Housel has a perfect term for this: junk food attention. It's tempting, it's satisfying for a moment, but it's not durable. And in the long run, it leaves you feeling empty. It's a quick fix, a short-term hit of pleasure that can totally backfire, just like a sugar crash. And this chart shows the problem perfectly. The attention you get from a flashy purchase, super high on speed. You get it instantly. But durability? It's incredibly low. A month after you buy that new car, the attention is gone. And the people whose respect you truly want, your family, your close friends, let's be honest, they never cared about the car in the first place. So what's the alternative? It's this. True, lasting status comes from things that can't be bought: your character, your skills, your contributions. When people admire you for who you are, your humor, your intelligence, your kindness, that urge to buy their respect with shiny things, it just tends to fade away. And this brings us to the real game changer: the power of contentment. This is all about a shift in focus, from getting more to wanting less. It's about consciously deciding to step off that treadmill of constant desire. This chart shows the psychological trap of desire so perfectly. We value things the most before we have them and after we lose them. Our brains are literally hooked on the chase, not the having. That feeling of anticipation often gives us a bigger hit of pleasure than actually owning the thing ever will. And this cycle has a name. It's called the hedonic treadmill. You get a brief high from a new purchase, but then your happiness level snaps right back to its baseline, and you're already looking for the next hit. It's a dangerous loop, and it's how people with incredible wealth can still feel totally miserable. Their expectations just rise as fast as their income. Now, this might be the most powerful idea in the whole book. Happiness isn't just about what you have.
It's the gap between what you have and what you want. You can close that gap from either side. Realizing you have the power to get wealthier simply by managing your desires, well, that's a total game changer. That's a game you can actually win.
So, if there's no universal formula, how do you find your formula? How do you figure out what genuinely brings you joy? The answer is to stop looking for a rule book and start treating it like a personal experiment. The book suggests this simple 3-step algorithm. First, you experiment. Then, you observe what genuinely brings you fulfillment, not what you think should. And finally, you adapt. You keep what works and you ruthlessly cut what doesn't. Your formula is going to change. Maybe it's travel in your 20s and family experiences in your 30s. The key isn't finding one perfect answer. It's being willing to evolve. And that's what this all comes down to. As this final quote says, personal finance is more personal than it is finance. The goal isn't to follow someone else's rules. It's to create a financial life that's an authentic reflection of your values. What works for you might seem crazy to someone else, and honestly, that's exactly how it should be. And that leaves us with one last thought to reflect on long after this explainer is over. Your bank statement is more than just a list of numbers. It's a story. It's a story about your priorities. So the question is, are you happy with the story it's telling?